Elizabeth Bennet dressed carefully for the upcoming quarterly assembly. Netherfield Park, largely vacant for the past 5 years, had recently been leased to a wealthy young man with an annual income of 4,000 or 5,000. The local gossip fueled speculation about the size of his party, ranging from as few as 2 to as many as 20 residents. Elizabeth found this amusing, particularly given the neighbourhood's lively rumours surrounding the matter. Mrs. Bennet had already claimed the tenant, a Mr. Charles Bingley, as the property of her eldest and most beautiful daughter Jane. She commanded all her girls to make themselves as presentable as possible for the event, in case other wealthy gentlemen accompanied him. Her most beautiful daughter needed to marry well because of the entail on their property, and Mrs. Bennet decided their new neighbour was just the man to save them from the hedgerows. To Elizabeth, she merely instructed her to stay out of the way and not to make a nuisance of herself. When the party from Netherfield entered the hall sometime in the middle of the second dance, all eyes turned towards the newcomers. While the residents of Hertfordshire watched them, the newcomers turned a critical eye toward those in attendance. It was clear that they all, except the younger red-headed gentleman, were displeased with what they saw. While a popular dance partner, Elizabeth was not a marriage prospect for the few gentlemen in the village, since it was widely believed that she had nothing, not even the £1,200 that her cousins would inherit upon their mother's death. Due to this, Elizabeth occasionally directed the available gentlemen to ask other girls to dance, and would choose to sit out several dances at each assembly. During one of these times, Elizabeth heard a conversation between 2 of the gentlemen from Netherfield. "Come, Darcy, you must dance," Charles Bingley said to his friend, who was standing by the wall. "I hate to see you standing about in this stupid manner." "Charles, you are fully aware the sole reason I am present tonight is to avoid being left alone with your sister," Fitzwilliam Darcy responded, with a brusqueness not uncommon to him. "Had you informed me of tonight's assembly, I would have delayed my journey a day to avoid attending. Now, return to your partner and enjoy her smiles. I have an excruciating headache and no desire to dance tonight, particularly not with a lady I am unacquainted with." Unnoticed by both men, Elizabeth smiled slightly at their conversation. She had seen the predatory lady in their party grabbing at the taller gentleman's arm when they walked in, and watched with amusement as the gentleman repeatedly attempted to extricate himself from her grasp, much to the lady's displeasure. She could certainly understand why he had a headache if he was constantly subjected to that. Silently, she walked into the kitchen attached to the assembly room, prepared a glass of willow-bark tea, and carefully returned to her spot by the gentleman she understood to be Mr. Darcy. Carefully keeping herself hidden from the rest of the room, she spoke in hushed tones to the gentleman. "Sir, I hope you will forgive my impertinence, but I overheard you speaking to Mr. Bingley. My family often uses tea with willow bark to help with pain, and I have prepared a cup for you. It tastes bitter, but it should help your head if you are willing to try it." He startled, and then turned slightly to look at her. She appeared vaguely familiar, but the pain in his head had kept him from paying much attention to the introductions. "I must apologize, as I do not remember your name. While I appreciate your effort, I am not accustomed to accepting drinks from women I do not know. In my position, it is unwise." "I had not considered that, sir, but having watched Miss Bingley's pursuit of you, that seems wise. My name is Miss Elizabeth Bennet. We were introduced earlier, but if your head hurts as much as you say, I dare say it is difficult to remember so many introductions in such a short time," she replied, keeping her voice low and attempting to avoid notice. "I will leave the tea here if you change your mind, and then I will leave, so my aunt does not observe me talking to you. I must confess she is one to watch out for." He barked a laugh and quickly covered it with a cough. "I appreciate your help, Miss Bennet, and I will take a chance and try the tea. It was a pleasure to meet you, though I also feel you are familiar in some way. Have we met before tonight?"